This is George Dionne for KNAC.com, and I'm here with solo artist Wednesday 13. If I knew absolutely nothing about Wednesday 13, how would you describe your music to me?
Musically, it's a rock and roll hybrid of mix between rock and roll, metal, punk, visually influenced by all the theatrical bands from the 70s and early 80s, from Alice Cooper to Motley Crue to Twisted Sister.
Absolutely. And on October 7th, you're releasing your 9th studio album, Horrifier, through Napalm Records. Was this album written and recorded during the lockdowns?
Yes, it was. That was really, luckily we had that to do during that time, or it would have been an even longer lockdown if it would have felt like.
Let's talk a little bit about the single that you've released so far. You've released the song Inside Out, and the video kind of plays homage to The Exorcist. The album as a whole pays homage to the classic horror movies. So if you want to talk a little bit about the song Insides Out.
Insides Out, we did 2 videos so far. We did Hideous, which was the visually was we did the nod to The Exorcist, and then Insides Out we just filmed and it came out last week. That was wasn't really based on necessarily any horror movie in particular. Probably several ones I've seen, and I just kind of made my own version of it. And Insides Out, again, it's not really based on any sort of particular horror movie. But I do always find myself always referencing back to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, which always my favorite, always been my favorite horror, every little thing about it. So the video and the song of that was kind of, I guess, sort of inspired by Leatherface's mentality of taking someone's insides and putting them on the outside.
And clearly I mixed up the 2 videos of the singles that you had out. You're So Hideous is the one, as you corrected me, about The Exorcist, but the song is actually about Medusa.
Well, it's like, again, when we're trying to make the video for it, and like I said, the song is sort of a modern day Medusa song about a person who's just will is out to be evil and turn people to stone. And but when I was trying to make the video, I'm like, how am I going to pull off a Medusa video without paying? That's the best Medusa thing was ever made was the Clash of the Titans, and it took them, I think, 5 weeks to film that animation of that. So I was like, how can I recreate this? And then when I was literally thinking about a movie video idea, I was watching The Exorcist in the background, and I went, you know what? That girl's pretty hideous. This could fit for that as well. So that's how that all came about.
Are you planning a third single or video from the album?
Yes, third single will be out October 5th. We filmed the video right before we left for tour. So it's for the song Good Day to Be a Bad Guy. That's going to be another visually entertaining video to keep in line with the others. And it's going to have a Halloween 3 movie. That's what it's inspired by. So if you know the movie Halloween 3, the one without Michael Myers, this is the one where we're kind of paying homage to.
That is my favorite song from the album, Good Day to Be a Bad Guy. But for Halloween movies, I have to say 4 and 5 were my favorite, and they're very underappreciated.
I love those. I'm a big fan. Actually, I'm not really a fan of the more recent ones. I love the first 2. I didn't really understand 3 as a kid. I didn't know what they were trying to do, but as I got older, I appreciate it in its own way. I just really like the mask, the idea of turning kids into, melting their brains by watching the television on Halloween night. So that was just a weird thing. I don't think I understood as a kid, but as I got older, it was like, whoa, what a weird concept. I was okay with it not having Michael Myers in it.
You've had this horror theme run throughout your career, and you're a pretty scary looking guy at times. Has anyone ever approached you about being in a horror movie?
No one's asked me to be anything like that. I've mainly been asked, for music or providing like soundtrack stuff like that. But I don't think that's out of the question. I definitely have on my list of things to do. I will make my own movie. I don't know if I want to star in it. I believe I could play a good monster. I've spent my whole life watching monster movies, so I think I know how to do it pretty well.
At the very least, I think we could get you into a Tromaville movie.
Oh, that would be my dream come true.
It's not all horror on the album. You have a nice song dedicated to your mother and your former bandmate Joey Jordison called The Other Side. If you want to talk a little bit about that song.
During the lockdown, I just had a lot of unfortunate, like, just things happen. You know, my mother passed away suddenly. I lost Joey Jordison last year, a good friend of mine. You know, my buddy Alexi from Children of Bodom passed away. It just, you know, I had a lot of other tragedy stuff happen within my family just over those 2 years. And it had nothing to do with the COVID, you know, nobody passed away from COVID. It was all just different situations, but it was all at once. It was a lot. So when I was writing the record, you know, I got a lot of this on my mind pretty heavy. And I don't necessarily on my records try to write about personal things, but that was something that I couldn't not think about. So when we came up with the music for the other side, it just, I don't know, instantly I was like, I think this is the one I need to write about. So for me, it was like therapy for me to be able to write that and get some sort of closure with that. But it's also scary doing a song like that sometimes with the, you know, having the reputation I have and the catalog of music I have. You know, whenever you put out a song that's bare like that, it's exposing yourself. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe that's more shocking than me writing a song about, you know, what I normally write about. So either way, I think it fit. It still sounds like Wednesday 13, and I'm just glad I have this outlet to be able to do what I want and sing about what I want to sing about. And in this song in particular, like I said, you know, I had to write about it because it was, again, I've never had anyone so close to me or several people so close to me pass away. So it's still a difficult thing to deal with, but that song definitely gave me some closure. And also when I mentioned it was about my mom and Joey, you know, a lot of people know Joey around the world, you know, so I felt that would be a good song for them too, to maybe finally get some closure with that too.
Obviously, I'm sorry for your losses over this time. I mean, obviously, it's a time of reflection and yes, things like that when we lose people. I mean, have you found yourselves between the lockdowns and kind of the losses, kind of re-examining your life as well?
Oh, yeah. Too much time to think, definitely. But at the same time, you know, the 2 years, I could say all the negative stuff that happened, but there's a lot of positive stuff that happened. I was, you know, I started a Wednesday 13 fan club during this time off that was really successful, and it's been very successful. And I got to get closer with my fans and just did a lot of really cool stuff over the lockdown. I created my own fan club comic book, which included the fans in it. Each month I'd kill 13 fans in the comic book. They get to be murdered in the comic book, and it was like zombies or whatever the storyline was. And so, yeah, I got to sit back and I've been touring for 18 years. I really haven't had a chance to sit back and look at all my stuff, as you know, and look and go, well, was this good? What's the best thing? What was the best record? What does everybody like? What, you know, so I really got to reevaluate myself, and by also hearing what people like and don't like about what I've done. So when I made this record, I kind of, you know, made it by the opinions and things I'd heard of people going, oh, I don't know if I really like when Wednesday does this style of music, but I like it when he's more horror punk, or if it's this or this. So I definitely kept all of those opinions in my head, and I think I made a record that's going to include all the stuff that people like, not the stuff that people didn't like over the years.
Horrifier is your first album for Napalm Records. How did you sign the deal with them?
I've released some of my back catalog through Napalm several years ago when I was still signed to Nuclear Blast. So I was at one point I was on Nuclear Blast, but I was still had 5 or 6 of my back catalog songs on Napalm. So when we finished up the our term with Nuclear Blast, I mean, yeah, it was easier to, it was just the natural place to go. They already had most of our catalog. They were interested in it. And they offered us a good deal, and I couldn't say no. And so far, so good. They've been great. They've been keeping me crazy busy with press. I don't think I've did this much press since I was on Roadrunner Records back in the day. So lots of good stuff. They've been very cool. And, you know, with both labels, I mean, any label I've been on, I don't ever have anybody trying to change me or, you know, stuff you hear from labels or horror stories. Oh, this band or the label tried to get the band to change their sound or change their look or anything. They pretty much signed me because of the way I am. So they want me to do what I do. So I never have any problems in that department.
Next month, you're going to be heading out on the 20 Years of Fear tour. Well, actually, I think you're out there now.
I'm on it right now. Yeah. So.
You're out there right now. It ends on October 23rd. So is this your first foray back to the road after lockups, or have you been out there for a little bit?
This is we went out March, April, May earlier this year, and that was the first part of this tour. So we're on the second leg, playing places we didn't this time because it's hard to go out and hit every place in the U.S. without doing a full like 2 months. So yeah, this is the second leg of it, and it was originally ending on October 23rd. I haven't announced it yet, but by the time this probably comes out, people will know. We've added an extra week onto our tour, so we're going to be touring up until Halloween. So we'll be announcing another week of U.S. dates that we're adding onto this because our European ministry tour that we were going on, ministry canceled. So our European plans are gone for that. So I added an extra week on to this U.S. tour.
And I guess that's good that you're able to add an extra week, because a lot of bands are finding it hard to kind of get in on a tour schedule with everything from 2020 being made up to every band releasing an album over the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's a little messy, but luckily it's worked out for me. I've got a great agent, and when I told him what we were wanting to do, like, hey, we're not going to Europe now. Let's add an extra week to the tour. Let's do Halloween somewhere. For someone to pass on Halloween, that usually doesn't happen. We're like, we are the Halloween band. So yeah, we got another week of dates lined up. I think we're going to be announcing that tomorrow or on Wednesday. And so I get to do a Halloween show in the U.S. this year, and then I'll get to go home, and that'll be our tour plans for the year. And then we start up next year, January, February, March, Australia, Europe, and all that. So it's a busy year coming up.
Do you want to talk about the stuff that's been going on with the Murderdolls?
I mean, I've been touching on it a bit. I just, not much more than what I said online. It's just, it's just unfortunate. There's some drama within the Murderdolls camp, and I made a statement online about it because I wanted people to know that I wasn't involved with this, and I don't approve of what's going on. But basically, an ex-touring member of the first lineup 20 years ago decided to take the Murderdolls name behind Joey's back before he even passed away. The trademark had lapsed. Joey didn't know about it, so he took it. And now that Joey has passed, now he's selling Murderdolls merchandise, websites, blah, 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 trying to basically just make the history about the band be about the first album and those guys when they were literally just the touring musicians behind the record. And now they're re-releasing our first album, which they didn't play a single note on. And they're doing it without my permission and without paying me or anything. So it's a slap in the face to me. It's a slap in the face to Joey. And he hasn't told the truth to people what's going on. And that's why I said what I said. So hopefully this will go away sooner than later, but I'm definitely not going to let it go the way it's going without putting up a fight for it.
So let's look at the bright side of 20 years of Beyond the Valley of the Murderdolls. I'm sure back then you probably didn't expect the staying power that it had and how it's still celebrated today. So what was it like putting that album together and the response that it received when it came out?
This is amazing. I mean, for me, it was my first big thing. I've been touring. I mean, I've been doing my bands and stuff for years and doing little regional tours on the weekends and stuff like that. But to Murderdolls was the big one, and Joey and I, when we met, we had this instant chemistry that just worked. I mean, I've never ever had anybody else to this day that I worked that well with. The way we could write music together without even having guitars in our hands, just literally talking out ideas. It was such a cool relationship that we had, and I knew instantly we had something good. And when we first came in and did the record, it was, Joey wanted to use a lot of my music that I brought in, and he had some music he had as well. So we just literally worked on it, revamped it. He kind of, he produced it all. When it was all said and done, I was, listening back to this record going, wow, this is the greatest thing I've ever done. I hope everybody else likes it as much as we do. And then, but it was scary because that was, for Joey, that was the first time he had ever been photographed without his mask on. It was a big deal. It's kind of like, I can compare it. Like it kind of felt like during the time, at least the press that was going on around it was like when Kiss took their makeup off. Everyone wanted to know what Joey looked like. Corey Taylor was doing his Stone Sour project at the same time. So it was a it was a weird time. It was like, oh, Slipknot's unmasked. We had all this attention on us, so we instantly had a fan base or people interested in us because of Slipknot. Within our first 2 weeks of going on tour, we're not just doing club shows. We're playing with Guns N' Roses in Japan in front of 30,000 people. And, so we definitely didn't start off and have to work our way up. It was already built just because of Joey's reputation. And then also it worked. New metal was dying. There was nothing. People were like looking for something new, and we were new and weird. And it worked. It definitely worked in the UK, different territories. The UK, I felt like the Beatles for 5 seconds. Like, it was a big deal. We were on the cover of every magazine there. Our shows were all sold out. It was just, it was crazy. And to know that it's lasted 20 years and people still talk about that record is it makes me really proud.
You're also creeping up on 20 years of your solo career. Transylvania 90210 came out in 2005. So that must also be a feather in your cap.
Yeah, man. I mean, and I call it 20 years because that's when I quit my day job. But I've been playing music since I was 15 years old. I put my first album out when I was in 1993. And there's people that still know that music. Because before, all the music that was brought in for Murderdolls was from my former band, Frankenstein Drag Queens. And we put out 5 albums. Before that, before Murderdolls, I'd already released 5 or 6 albums and was just doing regional touring. So if I really wanted to say it, it's about 27 years of fear, 28 years of fear. But yeah, man, I've just, but I've stuck to my guns. I still do the same thing I've been doing all these years. And it's funny, I'm talking to you from my dad's house right now in the bedroom where I wrote, literally I'm sitting here right now where I wrote most of that Murderdolls album, which is odd just to sit here and go, whoa, I'm in this room 20 years later talking about this. This is bizarre. But yeah, man, that was such a great time. And I've had a very fortunate, career being able to do what I do and not rely on video and video play and radio play. And you know what I mean? Like, I'm not your typical radio band. So I've definitely stayed under the radar, but kept a big fan base enough to be able to do this full time, all the time.
Are you still doing anything with Bourbon Crow?
All my side projects are just they're always just there. They're never done with, or they're just they're just there on the side as they were in the beginning. Again, that's another project that I did that was completely different than Wednesday 13. It's literally a country drinking band. Made 3 albums with that as well. So Bourbon Crow has always been that band that would just come out and do stuff whenever we had time to do it. And we've had time over, since 2006 when we started to make 3 records. So I think there's one more in us somewhere. When that happens, I don't know. But as far as like the side projects or anything else, I don't have enough time to do anything anymore other than Wednesday 13. That's been my priority. And I just try to focus on that, because I notice when I start doing anything else or working on anything else, I have to be in the zone of one thing at a time. It's hard I'm not a juggler. And though it seems like I am, I'm not good at juggling.
Before I let you go, where did you get the moniker Wednesday 13?
I started using that name in 1995, I believe, 94, 95. I had my band at the time. I was trying to come up with some kind of cool stage name. Didn't want to use my real name. I literally was obsessed with, still am, Addams Family, Monsters. Wednesday Addams was always a favorite character of mine. I really liked the Christina Ricci, when the remix, she took that character to the next level. So I took the name Wednesday. The number 13 was from the Monsters address, 1313. And I just wanted a name that sounded like from outer space, or not a normal name. I wanted something that was like Ziggy Stardust, Nikki Sixx, Alice Cooper. It's got the name, it's got the number. Doesn't know if it's a guy or a girl. What is Wednesday 13? Some people think Friday the 13th. So it just, I don't know, it fit. And it sounded a lot better than going, hey, I'm Joseph Gould.
Fair enough. Those are all the questions I have for you, Wednesday. The new album is Horrifier. It comes out October 7th through Napalm Records. It's a fantastic album. I sad to say, it's the first Wednesday 13 album I've listened to, but you made a fan out of me, and now I'm checking out the catalog.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
And thank you for talking with KNAC.com.
Thank you, man.